Hi, welcome to Just Common Sense. My name's Brian Harrison. So, guys, guess what? I got, you know who, Jerry Dangler on the phone tonight. Yes, the audience is going to applause for him. All right, great. They love him. All right, it's been a while since we've been on. Well, guess what? I now have Paul Fitz on the line. He is running for mayor of Raleigh. He's going to get an applause as well. All right. That being said, let's go on, guys. So, Paul, we're going to talk to you about a variety of things. I'm sure you've got a lot you're going to say today. Thank you for giving us the time and congratulations. I'm already going to congratulate you because you are going to be the next mayor of Raleigh. I have seen what's going on in Raleigh right now, and it's a mess over there. The mayor over there, useless. She is useless. But anyway, that's another story. I'm going to say it that way. Paul, go on. Talk. Give us what you're.
No, thanks for having me tonight, man. I'm glad to be here. Glad to talk about the issues.
Okay, great. I know one thing you were talking about. You were talking about getting more law enforcement in the city of Raleigh. Go ahead, and if you would like to talk about that first.
Man, it's a long story, but you have to understand that the city of Raleigh has been under Democrat run majority for 20 plus years. Their primary focus during that period of time has been on Dix Park. They've seemed to focus and allocate funds for Dix Park. They have completely neglected public safety in the city of Raleigh. And in doing so, now crime is getting out of hand. Over the last 2 years, murders have risen to the greatest of the greatest amount of number of all time in the city. Um, Break-ins, businesses being broke into, restaurants being broke into. Kids are stealing cars and ramming them into businesses just to break in and steal products. Crime is getting out of hand. The current mayor and one other city council member have both stated. Mayor Baldwin said she's going to rerun. Another city council member said he's going to run as well. Both Democrats, and both are out there saying, "Hey, what do we do about crime?" Well, when you neglect your police department, your crime is going to go up. And Raleigh has become a victim of that Democrat mentality of defunding police departments per se. We need about 400 more police officers in the city of Raleigh to make up for the new property lines that we have. The city has expanded in size, and our population has doubled in the last 20 years. So I think 400 police officers would actually get us to where we need to be to get crime under control and make it more manageable.
Well,
Okay.
Paul, I
Good.
agree with you on that. That you need more police officers, but one thing that I think you would need to work in tandem with your additional police officers is I think that you need to have another focus on prosecuting crime when it does happen. So with the things you were talking about that are taking place, because right now it's a double-headed monster, because we've watched over the last few years where BLM and Antifa and all these other groups go into downtown and they trash the downtown and they burn stores
Yeah.
down, and they injure people, they hurt, they stand up to the cops and pelt the cops with rocks and frozen water bottles, and either nobody gets arrested, or the few that do get arrested are either out on bail and then have the charges dropped, or they never even get charged. So I think it's a two-headed monster that, yes, you need the police, but if you just add more police, but you don't actually use them effectively and prosecute the people that they do have to arrest, then, there's not even really any reason to have the police out there. All you're doing is putting, good, hardworking law enforcement officers at risk. So I did, and I know that you agree with that, but I'm just, stating the obvious there.
Right. No, it's a twofold scenario. I will tell you, having a broader police force is a stronger deterrent against crime to begin with. But
Right.
let's put a face back on 2020 in the city of Raleigh when there were
Yes.
riots. There were riots for 3 nights. There were arrests. The current mayor, Marianne Baldwin, made a speech the following day. She said, "We had arrests. People were arrested last night, and we want to let everybody know that they were mostly white." That was her statement. That was a quote unquote mostly white. What she failed to mention in that same statement was they were mostly Democrat and they were mostly from out of town. They were
Yep.
out of town activists that
Correct.
came into Raleigh on buses and tore up Raleigh. Now, to go back to what you said about the district attorney in Wake County, the DA is a Democrat. There is nothing I can do about that, even as mayor. But I will tell you this: if you guys pay attention to Dan Bishop, who is running for Attorney General in the state, Dan Bishop is prepared to deal with attorney generals who do not enforce law. So if you're looking for somebody to vote for in the AG spot, Dan Bishop is going to be probably the best attorney general the state has ever seen.
Good to know.
No, I agree with that. And, I mean, as far as mayor, I understand that you don't get to dictate what crimes are prosecuted, but if you show the support to your police chief, and see, that's the opposite of what Mayor Baldwin was doing. She was out there telling the police chief to stand down, to back down, to not arrest these people. And so, I mean, when she says, the majority of people arrested were white, I'd have to see the statistics on that because I don't believe it. And two, the other thing is, it's very easy to skew a statistic like that by telling the police, hey, look, you know what, we don't want to cause racial strife. So, if you run across a black person doing something, warn them not to do it and tell them to go on their way and then don't arrest them. So it's easy when, you want a particular desire to steer the event in the direction of the desire that you want at the end.
I'll give you another way to look at it. Every single night that those, I'm doing it for those protests took place, there were permits signed off by the city for those protests to take place, by the way.
Yep.
Somebody in the city office signed off on these protests, right? If a real mayor was in place, not Marianne, a real mayor was in place, and I'm the guy, I'm going to say, you know what, fine, I'm going to allow you to have your protest. Here's where you're going to have your protest at. You're going to have your protest at Dix Park. If you get out of hand at Dix Park, we're going to shut it down. You're not coming downtown where the businesses are. You're not going to throw rocks at anybody's glass. You're not going to throw anything at your police officers. The minute you do, we shut this down. And if we have to get big to do it, we'll bring in the National Guard. We'll bring in the Highway Patrol. We'll bring in the sheriff. If the sheriff won't do it, we'll bring in the sheriff from another county and bring all those guys in. We will shut it down. What happened in 2020 was completely unnecessary.
Right. I want to say
absolutely.
something. Hold on one minute, guys. I want to say something because you guys remember Donnie Harrison. Everybody knows Donnie Harrison. Donnie was being called that night from a lot of deputies, and Donnie couldn't do anything because Baker was in office. And he was, and thank God he's out. He's out, and God knows where he is. Nobody knows. He disappeared after all this. But that being said, that Donnie, they were asking Donnie, is there anything you can do for us? Can you help us? And Donnie's hands were tied because he was no longer the sheriff. And that was the problem. And it comes back to, like you said, it came back to Marianne Baldwin, and she was the biggest problem, big part of this, I should say. And of course, Baker was as well. And that just goes to show where it comes from. And like you just said, Paul.
National Guard was told to stand down. Believe me, they had plenty of assets. They had plenty of resources. They were told to stand down because these were Democrat political activists tearing up downtown Raleigh.
Exactly. Okay. Well, that was, there's a lot that Paul can do. And my advice is definitely look into Paul. And he's on social media sites and everything out there. He's going to be all over the place talking more and more. So you guys are going to listen to him. So definitely vote for Paul. But Paul, go on. Anything else you want to talk about? I know there's quite a few things you want to talk about.
There's a lot to unpack in general. One of the questions that was brought up to me the other day at a conference was, well, how are you going to pay for 400 more police officers? If I'm a Democrat, the first thing I say is, well, we're going to raise taxes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you the truth. You can bring in 400 more police officers and not raise a dime in tax in anybody's taxes for it. The state of North Carolina owns 161 properties in downtown Raleigh that pay zero in property tax. I've already brought this up to several state house members, and I talked to House Speaker Tim Moore about it maybe about a month ago
Okay.
in his office. And in that meeting, I said I want to get the prisons out of downtown Raleigh. Central Prison is 44 acres. It's 100 years old. Women's Prison is 189 acres. They take up too much space in downtown. Those areas can be transformed into livable, walkable, mixed use, condo, townhouse areas that can help bolster the downtown economy and just get rid of non-tax space out of our area. These are things that we don't need in downtown Raleigh. Hey, I understand everybody has a responsibility to have prisoners somewhere, but we have thousands upon thousands of cheap acres of land east of Highway 95. We can easily find some swampland that you can build a prison beside at a much reduced cost than having it in the middle of downtown Raleigh, where land is extremely premium priced right now. If we did that, we broaden our tax base, we bring more people into downtown Raleigh, we make it more livable, and we bolster the businesses that way. When you broaden the tax base, you can pay for more things like public safety without having to raise taxes while doing it.
Well, you also increase the real estate prices for the current homeowners that are within proximity of the current prisons, because right now there's not a whole lot of people that are out there and meeting up with a real estate agent. When the real estate agent says, tell me what you're looking for, they go, hey, could you put me next to a prison? Could you put me next to an airport? Could you put me, so, right now you've got, home values that are down in those areas as well. And so, that would spur home values, an increase. So you get new building, to build the kind of homes that you're talking about. And at the same time, you'd increase the values of the homes already built in that area, and you'd create the safety in that area, because a modern prison would have, more technology for keeping the prisoners in, and also it would be further away from the downtown area.
I was gonna say, even further to that point, if a prisoner escapes, I'd rather him escape at a swamp versus
Absolutely
in downtown Raleigh. A, he can cause more harm to people more quickly, and B, he has more escape routes in a downtown area. Somebody could be waiting for him outside the gates. Whatever the point is that if you put them in a remote area, they're less likely to cause more harm that way.
Well, the French had the right idea. Look at Devil's Island.
Yeah.
Guillotines too, but that's beside the point.
Hey, I'm not against that.
You're talking about public safety. We're talking about law enforcement. Let's talk about public safety and all this going on. Let's talk about what's going on in downtown Raleigh. I've driven through downtown Raleigh not long ago. My wife and I drove through there, and not just once, a couple times. And I'm starting to see a lot of people, more homeless people, more people. I've seen so many people just laying out there on this. I mean, literally, I saw somebody laying in a rain shower on the grass, passed out, because I would assume he was on fentanyl. Another one we saw was somebody hanging over. You see him in some of these news, when they show them on the news, I should say, out there, and you see him hanging over and all. I'm seeing a lot of that, a lot more of that in Raleigh and other places as well. A matter of fact, the worst one I've seen lately was up in Asheville area, and that was crazy when I went up there. And I mean, they were all over the place up there, and they were telling me it's just coming in across the border. They were talking about this. But anyway, your thoughts on that, Paul?
No, I mean, Asheville's
I know.
It's an asylum all by itself right now. But
well, yeah,
the homeless situation in Raleigh, you have to break down the homelessness into two different categories. And you have the one area of homelessness where they have people who are physically and mentally incapable of taking care of themselves, and they're out on the street. These folks need to be found out. They need to be evaluated, and then if they need to be transitioned into long-term care, group homes, or whatever, where they can actually have a shelter. They're no longer a victim to the outdoors. They're no longer a victim to predators. They can actually have at least some kind of shelter in their life and be protected, right?
Right.
The second encampment of what I would say the homeless population is generally people who have fallen down on their luck. 9 times out of 10, it's because of some type of substance abuse. For these folks, again, they have to be evaluated, taken to a place where they can be, get off the drugs, try to find a way to put them in these care facilities. And once they've, become clean and sober, these folks can become productive members of society. They can, be taxpayers. They can recognize their situation.
Mm-hmm.
And once they're clean and sober, maybe they can offer a hand up as well.
Right.
It's not we're trying to move them out of sight, out of mind. You really want to transition these
Right.
folks back into productive members of society so that it's more of a pay it forward. You hope that they would do the same for people they find in the same situation.
Right. Now, one thing I was going to say, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I've said this for years, definitely. What we could do is help them out, find facilities that would help them if they're willing to. Now, if they're not willing to, then that's where the law enforcement comes in, because they could be out there being destructive and stuff. So, your thought on that too? Pretty much the same, I'm sure I just said.
Yeah, I mean, again, look around, look at
Yep.
every single intersection. When you look at the intersections and you see that they have makeshift tents or
Yeah.
makeshift, just little areas where they you just might as well use the word squatting,
Oh, yeah.
whatever word you want to use. Again, it's still not safe for these people.
No.
There are predators out there who have other things in mind, be it human trafficking or whatever they want to
Right.
do.
Well, see, Paul, that's where I was going to go with that, because
Yep.
you mentioned the two groups, and then
Yeah.
there's actually two subgroups to those groups. One of them is
Yep.
the ones that are being put on these corners by somebody, and just like a pimp puts a prostitute out and he takes all her money and only gives her a little bit. Some of these people you see out on these corners are being put out there by
Yeah.
some criminal entity who's taking all the money and then giving them a pittance or a fraction of what they're getting.
Drugs. Yeah.
And then the other side of that is then you've got the people that are just out there because they're like, this is tax-free money, and this is a heck of a lot easier than punching a clock 40 hours a week. And I got to tell you, my personal opinion, and feel free to use this because you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this, so this will be the first time you've heard me bring this up. My personal opinion on this is, I think one way to get rid of the people that are just out there because it's easier than punching a clock is not necessarily going out and arresting them, but going out there with your revenue collection agents, getting an identification on this person and saying, hey, by the way, when's the last time you filed taxes? Oh, how much have you collected today? Okay, so you owe this much. And once you start holding them accountable for the money they're getting and they realize they're going to have to pay taxes on it, or they're going to have to pay back taxes, then a lot of, not all of them, because nothing's 100%, but a lot of them I think would stop going out there, because I've seen them start getting aggressive now. I'm like, not just standing on the corner, but when the lights red, they're walking up to cars.
Right.
And I had a lady cuss me out the other day because I wouldn't look at her.
Yep.
Oh Lord. Yeah.
And she wasn't like one of those crazed, drugged out, she had a sign that said that she was a refugee and that, her and her family didn't have enough money for food. And I wouldn't even look at her. I saw the sign, but when she came and walked up to my car, I was doing something else. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, you're either not really a refugee because the government gives you guys so much stuff if you're a refugee, or if you are a refugee, then what you need to do is find out where the people are getting all the stuff, and you need to go get yours.
Well,
don't be cussing me out at a stoplight because I'm not giving you money.
Don't tell her to go get hers.
Yeah.
One more check I got to write.
But the other thing too is this example. You're right, Jerry. I mean, I've seen people. I saw one guy once a couple years back where his wife pulls up in a real nice car and he's handing her a bunch of cash, and he started walking back out there. I will say it. I went out there and I went off on him. I'm going to say it that way. I mean, I literally went off on him. And even the other day, I saw somebody who's been sitting over there in the Briar Creek area. He's got a wheelchair. He sits there in a wheelchair. And all of a sudden, a few minutes later, I saw him arguing with somebody standing up and walking just fine. So it's out there. We all know it. We're seeing it. And people are taking, they're prey to that. I mean, people in their cars and stuff, and they either feel guilty and they're like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and give them some money, or they just don't want to be harassed. Okay, here's some money and that's it. Just get away from me.
Back in the
Yeah,
90s,
like Paul said, we need to get the
Yeah,
people that cannot
I
do for
agree.
themselves
And I
off the
agree.
street into some sort of program or group home.
Yeah.
The people that are, within some sort of
Yeah.
substance abuse, we need to offer them assistance. And if they refuse it, then we need to come up with a different solution. But then we need to get the people that are just out there because it's easier than working. Those are the ones that we need to say, hey, you know what, you're out of here. But I think also, Paul, there's a way
Yeah.
to pay for some of your police officers right there is the additional tax revenue from these people standing on the corners.
I don't know if they're going to collect that much, but
You'd be shocked. I know some of these people make hundreds of dollars in just a few hours standing out there.
It's kind of funny because back in the 90s, I knew that the city of Raleigh was selling panhandling licenses.
Yeah.
I don't know how long they lasted or how long they were good for, but they were selling for $10 each. And I even thought back then, I'm like, why are we enabling this process?
Yes.
Why are we
Exactly.
get out there and stand in the middle of the road and hold up traffic and ask for money? Yeah, they can do a whole lot better on welfare, Social Security, whatever. But again, they need to be transitioned to where they need to be. The streets are not safe for anybody. Nobody should be living.
But see, Paul, actually what you just said though has now the tables have turned, and that's not a correct statement. That they can't do better on welfare. They're actually, some of these people on the street corners are making a ton of money. To Brian's point, when he said he saw the guy hand a bunch of cash, I mean, I've watched some of these people, like I'll be sitting at a McDonald's and I've watched like 4 or 5 cars within a 5-minute period, hand money out to these people, and they're all handing 5, 10, $20. So I'll be sitting there eating at a McDonald's and I'll see somebody take in $100 just while I'm eating lunch.
But to further the point on public safety, again, remember, if we have enough police officers in the area, they can back down on this a little bit. And what I mean by
I
that,
agree.
you're like, hey, buddy, you were out here last week. We thought we got you over to a group home where you need to be. We've got all your information now. If we catch you out here again, this is vagrancy at this point. You'll go to jail. You can
exactly.
I mean,
I agree.
It's a matter of the entire soup. So
Right.
Yep.
No, I agree too. Paul, you're right on the mark with all this. I definitely agree. I've said this for years. Give them an option. Try to get them into a place where they can get help if they're willing to. Just what you were saying. I've said it for a long time.
Hey, buddy, you want to get the help that you need?
Yep.
Or either A, you get arrested by us, or B, you can go to another town. We don't care what your other options are at that point.
Yeah.
But in this is what's going to happen. You're not going to see a homeless person on every corner when I'm mayor of Raleigh. It's just not going to happen.
Yep. Good. And that's something everybody would love to see. And we know it's going to take a little time to get that. When Paul becomes mayor, it does take a little time to get all that straightened up.
Well, up near my house, they actually had a homeless encampment for a while that finally got so out of control they had to go in and, get the people out, and then they had to throw away all the stuff, and they had to bulldoze some of the area, the trees and stuff, so that they couldn't live in there. But when I say an encampment, I'm talking probably 150 to 200 people. I mean, we're not talking 10 people or 15 people. And in addition to the danger of, because it was right in there, Paul, I know you'll know where this is, where Capitol Boulevard going north at 540.
On the town center over there. I know exactly where it's at.
By town center. Yeah. And it's like, and they were in between the east and west, lanes of 540.
That's right.
And so, I mean, so not only was it dangerous for them to get in and out, as far as the traffic, but let's also think of the health risk, because it's not like these people have any running water over there. They don't have sanitation. They don't have anything. So these people are probably just digging holes in the ground to use for a toilet. And they're not, there's no garbage pickup there. So, they're just probably burning their trash.
Yeah.
Which is now a fire hazard. I mean, there was so many things wrong with that. And people would say, oh, well, we need to help them. And I'm like, yeah, you do need to help them. We need to find them some sort of a program to get into to get off the street. And, oh, well, you don't understand, these poor people. I'm like, well, if you want them off the street, put them in your house. If you don't want to help them find a program, put them in your house.
This is a completely missed shot by the city council who decided to take over Dix Park. You shut down the park. you remove every bit of help for people with mental mental health issues and whatnot, and then you've completely taken this thing right off the table where you could have had people housed, where you could have found them long-term care. They decided to use that facility, that area, as a park versus what it was intended for, mental health.
Right.
Yep.
So, again, complete misuse of the property. It was short-sighted on the mayor. I think it was McFarland. I think it was Meeker's brainchild. I think McFarland carried it through, and then Marianne, she obviously is carrying the torch on the park. They've literally allocated about $500 million for Dix Park, which I got to be honest with you, they use the terminology destination park when they talk about Dix. Now, every destination park I've ever been to had at least a water slide or a roller coaster on it. People are not going to leave the mountain to come to Dix. People are not going to leave the beach to come to Dix. It is not going to be a destination park. It will
No, you may come from somewhere else in Raleigh or Wake Forest or Cary, but you're not coming from out of town to go to Dix Park.
It will never, ever recoup the amount of money that we're going to put into it. It will never.
As a matter of fact, they're probably not even coming to Raleigh for something else, and Dix is even, second or third on the list of things they're going to do. So it's not even like they're coming into town for a hockey game or a football game or something like that. And then Dix is their next, hey, as soon as the hockey game's over tomorrow, we're going to Dix Park.
You have to think about it in this aspect. As many times as you or I or Brian, as many times as any of us have been to New York City, none of us have ever gone to New York City just to go see Central Park.
Nope.
It's the same concept here. Nobody's coming to Raleigh just to see Dick. It's not a destination.
And Paul, you had a good point. They're not going to recoup. They are not going to recoup at all. And that's where Paul's going with this.
Horrible allocation of funds. It could have been used for public safety years ago.
Well, Paul, to your point, I've actually been in New York City a few times, and before COVID, and I didn't even go to Central Park. So forget destination; it wasn't even on my list of things to do.
Dare you to find me one human who just went to New York City just to go to Central Park?
Right.
I mean,
Elf.
Yeah, that might be it. Movie.
Hey.
Purpose.
Wait a minute. I've gone to Dorothea Dix twice because she wanted to go see the sunflowers, but that's about it.
Yeah, but that's a local person, that's,
I'm just saying it's there. That's the only thing we went over there for.
I totally grant the fact that you went there to go see sunflowers. How many times have you been there otherwise?
3 times.
Yeah, I mean.
Twice for sunflowers. The other time I went over there because I was doing photography and I wanted to get a picture of the old buildings there. Because my wife, of course, she's like, it was haunted. It was all fun. But no, we did go over there and take pictures.
$500 million to do that? I mean, honestly, no.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah. No, that was there was a lot of backdoor money there going out to people.
Of course there was.
Yeah.
There was a history behind that place. So, and I mean, and you look at what it was really for, I mean, obviously that would have helped a lot of these people right now keeping it open, in my opinion.
Well, they should have had a better plan in place.
Yeah.
The mental health crisis in this country has not gotten better, it's gotten worse. And when you remove a facility that can actually help people with, mental disabilities, physical disabilities, I mean, or, again, drug issues, when you have a facility that can help people and then you shut it down, then you should expect your homeless population to increase exponentially.
Right.
Oh, and which is exactly what has happened.
Yeah. It's the formula.
Yeah. Well, guys, I've known. Go ahead.
With that, one of the other things too, you were talking about, moving the jails and other things like that. And another thing too, that we miss in today's society is we're so into like, oh, let's go find a bid to get this done, and let's find a bid to get this done, and we'll bring this company in from out of state to build this building for us. Well, when I was in Florida a while back, I remember that there was overcrowding in the jail system, the county jail system there in Dade County.
I was there.
So what they wound up doing was they wound up buying a piece of property out like on the edge of the Everglades. And then what they did was they offered prisoners the opportunity to shorten their sentences if they would go build the prison
Hmm.
and then they had to live in it. And it was in a
Perfect.
nasty area with like mosquitoes. And I mean, it was like I said, it was on the edge of the Everglades. And so they literally put them in tents. And the first thing they built was they had to build the guards' quarters. And then they built their own quarters and everything like that. Now, obviously, everything had to be to standard, and they weren't able to, do anything. But those guys were able to do that. Well, think how much money Dade County saved by doing something like that. And it's like, and that's the other thing that we miss out on when we're putting budgets together. You know, hey, you got homeless people that are saying they don't have money. Great. We got trash all over the side of the roads. What if we put together a program? Hey, you know what? You go out and you do this, and whether it's trash, painting a building, covering up graffiti, something, things that we have to use tax money to pay for. What if we were doing a double duty and taking somebody off the street and getting something for it in return?
Miami-Dade County should be the blueprint for every single large city in the United States right now. When Francis Suarez became mayor of Miami 9 years ago, the murder rates were high, crime was high, homelessness was a problem. Miami was Trump loves to use the word shithole. Miami was a shithole 9 years ago until Francis Suarez became the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
He's the first Republican mayor there in 40 years. He cleaned up all of the heavy crime. Murder rate in Miami is low. Homelessness in Miami now is low. Miami is becoming, literally, when I tell you this, Miami is becoming one of the financial strongholds on the East Coast of the United States. Miami right now could really rival New York City as far as money is concerned.
Oh, I agree.
Miami has created their own crypto.
Mm-hmm.
A few things that Suarez did, he went after the unaffiliated voter. He said, look, you see that crime is a problem. You see homelessness is a problem. What do you guys want in the unaffiliated area to give a Republican a chance? And they said, look, you bring in a casino, legalize this. He's made every single promise to them. He's kept it. And now Miami is literally the largest city in the country that is the cleanest city in the country. And that's a Republican mayor.
Yeah, I was just down there on a fishing trip a couple months ago, and it was, there were certain things that, I looked at and go, oh, I don't remember that. But, but you're right. It has much improved, over the time that I was there before that.
Give you one more thing about it. RTP at one time, the reason why so many people moved to Raleigh, because RTP, Research Triangle Park, was the number one tech hub on the East Coast. RTP now is either third or fourth. Miami is number one. Boston is number two. Alexandria is either third or we're third. It's a jockeying position between those two areas. But Raleigh used to be number one. Miami is now number one. Miami is literally the blueprint for what Raleigh should be following right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and that just tells you that obviously, Paul, you do know what you're talking about. Let me ask you a question. I heard something about a casino. Were you interested in doing it? I've heard rumors that you were.
Yeah, I mean, so the state General Assembly wanted to put in casinos in their budget in 2023, which I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not against it. I think casinos are a great idea. And again, me being a numbers guy, whenever you use that word, the first thing you have a bunch of Republicans who are clutching their pearls. Oh my God, all these bad things happen around casino. Let me tell you.
I already figured.
The state of Oklahoma has 103 casinos. None of them are going bankrupt, and the state of Oklahoma has a 3 million person population. It is a completely red state. Oklahoma is red from beginning to end. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you understand numbers, the state of North Carolina has more than 11 million people. All right.
Right.
We have 14 congressional districts now, and we have 3 casinos. 2 of them are Cherokee owned in the far western part of the state. The Catawba, which is a a South Carolina-based Native American tribe. The Catawba own a casino 5 miles north of South Carolina in Kings Mountain. And so when the state General Assembly said, hey, we should bring in more casinos in the state, I'm for it. I'm all for it. I think every one of those areas who want to have a casino, I think they should get it. My problem is that since the state of North Carolina takes up so much space downtown that does not pay property tax,
Right.
then they should not ignore their host city. They should not ignore the city of Raleigh. That
Right.
should have the exact same opportunity to have gaming as well. And what a casino in Raleigh would do is more shopping, actually better shopping, better dining, better entertainment. It is gaming purposes. They've already passed sports book in the state of North Carolina. It would be foolish of the General Assembly to ignore putting a casino in the city of Raleigh. Be foolish. And if I'm mayor of Raleigh, I'll make sure the city gets one.
I agree with you on this. And you know what? I mean, we are the capital here in Raleigh. So, you know, everybody should be looking at this city. And they're not right now because of obviously the mayor that's there right now. So
she actually advocated against it, which
Oh,
I
yeah,
thought was insane.
yeah,
You're talking about something that would create anywhere between 5,000 to 10,000 jobs, and you go back to 2020. Prior to COVID, there were several areas in the city of Raleigh that were open 24 hours a day. You go to Harris Teeter or Walgreens or Walmart.
Oh, I know.
24 hours a day. You try finding me one that's open past 11 o'clock now. If you have a 20-hour facility such as a casino, that puts jobs out for 24-hour service for other areas of the city. Again,
Right.
it's taking the same facilities and putting it around the clock and creating more jobs that way. It's a win-win scenario. And the state of North Carolina wants to tax casinos 22% of their gaming revenues.
Okay.
All right, 22%. From what I understand from Phil Berger and from Tim Moore, they didn't have a place to allocate the funds for that yet. Like they just wanted the
Right.
tax. Now I'm cool with that, but I think just like they have lottery money going to education, I think all the gaming revenues should go directly to public safety. It should go to highway patrol, sheriffs, and police officers throughout the entire state.
Hey, real quick on that too. What's your thought? You think all the lottery money is going to the schools?
That's a loaded question.
Exactly. And
Well,
I'm not
I
going to
can
get into
actually
that
answer
with
that
you, but
question,
I don't think it is.
the money's going to the schools, but not in the method that it was intended.
That's
So when they
okay.
came up with their lottery, they said, here's what we're going to do. The revenue from the lottery is going to go to the schools, and it's supposed to be a bonus to the school systems on top of the budget to buy, extra things that were not in the budget.
Right.
But then what happened is the legislature would say,
Yep.
oh, you're getting $70 million this year from the lottery. So that's $70 million we don't have to put in the budget. So it became basically a part of their budget rather than additional money, which it was designed to be. And that's the problem is, rather than giving them the money as the additional funding that it was supposed to be, basically they've basically punished them by taking away the money. And when they find out how much you're getting from the lottery, they just take that out of the budget.
Right.
Yeah, I give you another thing to look at.
Yep.
There are the fact that people will clutch their pearls when you say, "Oh, casino, blah blah blah."
Yeah.
I mean, whatever word you want to use for it. The
Sure.
problem for those same people, you don't see any of them protesting all of those illegal sweepstakes, internet cafes, fishing, whatever you want to call all those little illegal facilities. You don't see any of them ever protesting those places. They're not paying gaming taxes. They're not paying anything on their gaming revenues. Who the hell knows what they're really selling in? Are they selling alcohol? Are they selling drugs in these places? Nobody knows what they're doing. And there's at least 50 of them in North Raleigh.
Right.
So if they're not shutting down all these illegal facilities, I would rather bring in a legal one that we can actually tax and put that tax money to good use.
Which would actually do a good job of shutting down some of the illegal ones too, because once there's a legal one that people can go to and not worry about getting in trouble, then they're going to be like, hey, I think I'd rather go to the legal. And plus, a casino is going to be a nicer facility.
Nicer environment. And then you're going to hear people say, oh, well, casinos are taxed on the poor. You don't see any rich cars in those illegal facility parking lots.
No.
So,
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, I'll throw you another one out there. Something that's always been a burr under my saddle. And, I know that you and I may have discussed this a few years ago, but we don't see each other as much as we used to. I got to tell you something. It is an absolute crime that the city of Raleigh does not have a college bowl game. Okay.
yeah, I've been saying
we've got Carter Finley Stadium, and then right down the road you got Duke and UNC and all that. But I know that Carter Finley's the only one in Raleigh. But how is it that we don't have a bowl game?
Hold on. Give it to Paul. Paul wants to go. I hear Paul in the background. He really wants this one.
I brought it up back in 2017 when I ran for mayor then. And I even stated Carter Finley should host a bowl game. And literally the year after I stated that, Myrtle Beach, Coastal Carolina starts hosting the Myrtle Beach Bowl.
With a 20,000 seat stadium.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Listen, the people who are running the city, Mary Ann, the rest of the city council, believe me, they don't come up with ideas. They don't come up with anything that could generate revenue for the city. They don't do a lot. They basically do what their party tells them to do. This is why the city is falling the way it is.
Yep.
All right. Anything else you want to discuss tonight, Paul? Because we're about to end the podcast here in a little bit.
Yeah, no, I've had a good time. I love talking to you guys. I'm glad we could get some of these issues out.
Good.
And then I know that it's going to be kind of difficult for some voters to say, "Oh, well, that's a good idea," and sometimes they just kind of cringe on it. But when you jump in the political realm, you need to be a person who can think outside the box.
Yeah.
You need to be a person who knows how to pivot. You need to be a person who knows to look at the lay of the land and say, no, we can actually, we can use our highest and best use for this area is X.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the city of Raleigh hasn't had one of those people in probably 20, 22 years. So
no, because the people they've had know how to spend money, not how to make it.
Correct.
Yep. Yeah, and you're 100% right. I'm going to say it this way. Marianne Baldwin, your time is up. Move out of the way. Let someone get in there that knows what they're doing, because you have been proven over and over again, you do not know what you're doing. You're incapable of that job. You shouldn't even be in that place right now. That's my thought on it. And Paul, you're the one that can do it.
I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate it.
Jerry, anything else?
Nope. I think we covered an awful lot tonight.
And Jerry, I just want to thank you for one thing. Somehow Jerry has a camera in my studio here, because some of the stuff Jerry brought up was on my notes. Thanks, Jerry.
Hey,
it happens a lot.
Mind reading.
I just know what it's like for you to try and read without your glasses, so I'm trying to help you out.
It's a Vulcan man.
All right, I am taking my glasses off on this podcast right now. My glasses are off. My glasses are off now, Jerry. The gloves are on. Where are you? I'm calling you out. Get over here. Yeah, we're going to go at it.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, Jerry.
Right there, man.
All right. Well, Paul, hey, thanks for coming on, man. It was a pleasure talking to you again. And, if you could even get a fraction of the things you're talking about, going, as mayor, that would be a huge boost for the city of Raleigh. And the reason that I say it like that is not that I don't think you're going to try and get everything done, but it's the old saying, if you shoot for the moon and miss, you still wind up among the stars. You take a shot at everything you want to. And, it's like, you might not get it all, but even if you get half of it or most of it or some of it, that's, a start.
I want to, and I do want to say something, because give me the floor here for a second, guys. I've known Paul for many, 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 many years. And we've talked about politics. We've talked about many things all these years. And I will say this. I'll say something about his father. First of all, his father is a very good, nice, strong Christian gentleman. A very good guy. And you know what? His father has actually raised Paul in the right way. Not like these kids are being raised today. Paul is a very strong Christian, a very good Christian. So that's another thing you may not know about Paul. Paul has got a wife. He's got a very good family. Not you don't have children, but again, you've got your wife and everything, and they got pets. That's their children. I just wanted to say that, and there's many, many other things. Paul's not looking at. I mean, obviously we're Republicans here, but Paul also wants to help Democrats as well. He wants to help everybody. He's there to help everybody. It's not just about Republicans and Democrats. We've got radicals out there, obviously, and that's the ones we need to stay away from. We're not doing that. Paul, any thoughts on that?
No, man, I appreciate you saying all that. I'm a person who really doesn't talk about myself that much.
No, but people need to know about you. Like okay, I'll say it. When my father passed away, I'll tell you this: Paul drove 5 hours to go up there and and help me when my father was being buried. Paul was right there with me. And I can go into a couple other things. Paul, can I talk about your brother?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
Paul's brother, I was with him. Paul's brother got killed in a motorcycle accident. It was a tragic thing. And I was there the day it happened. I ran over there to Paul's office where he was. I was sitting in the car with him. I know he wanted to drive out there, but I kept talking, no, you do not need to go out there. And, he really, really loves his family a lot. So I'll say that. And he's got another brother and stuff too. That's great. But Paul misses his family. He misses his brother and his mother as well. But Paul, I mean, it just shows the kind of person you are. You're there for people. You're there to help. And that's a good heart. That's just a good person in general. And that's the way Paul is. So he'll be there to help anybody. Huh? You what?
I don't know what to say about that, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I've known you for a long, long, long time, and so is Jerry. Jerry knows all this stuff too. Jerry knows things about you too. I'm sure Jerry's got a lot
and
to say.
Paul, also hosts a number of charity events and
a lot,
things like that, and so that's something else too that is important to show that you do for other people, because so many of these politicians nowadays they're in it for themselves, and they go in and they make a few connections, and the next thing you know, they're collecting money, through the back door, and before they leave office, they've doubled or tripled or quadrupled their personal wealth, and rather than improving the position that they were elected in, they've just enriched themselves.
Yeah.
And so, that's part of the problem out there. And Paul's already shown that he does for others when he's not in an elected position. So I would expect no different when you are in an elected position.
And he works like crazy. Every time I'm talking to him, Paul, you're on vacation in another country. What are you doing? I'm working. Paul, take vacation. He works.
What are you doing down in Puerto Rico? Well, my wife's over at the pool, and I'm on the laptop doing a loan right now.
Exactly. That's what Paul does. He works like crazy. I talk to him all the time. Of course, so do I. So I'm there with you. Paul's always going, what are you doing? I'm working. You're working. Okay.
The most recent trip to New Orleans for the first time in probably 20 years, I went ahead and did the whole email thing where I set it up that I'm out of office. Contact this person if you have an emergency. And that was, it's been so long since I've done that. It took me a while to figure out how to do it because, I'm the same way. It's like, I know that I may not be the greatest at what I do, but in my opinion, nobody can do it as well as I can. And that's
the thing that I like to own as a guy who worked even when I owned the restaurant. I didn't say take out the trash. I was taking out the trash myself, or I was washing dishes in a dish pit, or I was bussing tables or tending bar.
Right.
I wanted my employees to see me lead by example.
Exactly.
I didn't want to just say, hey, I invested money in this place. You guys work.
Paul's reading my notes now because I was going to go there next. Paul has been a business owner. I mean, I've seen Paul do exactly what he just talked about. I've said it many, many times on the podcast, especially in the beginning of the podcast. I said, we come in this world with nothing. We go out with nothing. And we're here to help each other and guide each other through things in life. And nobody's better than anybody else. And I can tell you one thing, Paul's just like that. I am personally like that. You can pay me $1 billion if you want to, but I'm not going to accept if you're trying to change who I am, because I am not going to change no matter what. And Paul's the same way. And Paul Paul does quite well. He works hard, like a lot of people are not right now, but that's another story we've talked about. But again, that's important. And so does Jerry. Jerry works hard. Every time I'm talking to Jerry, where are you at? I'm working. I can only reach Jerry at nighttime pretty much, and it's at a hotel room usually because he travels a lot. So
I'd love to work harder, but somebody ruined the economy. I'm not naming names, Biden, but you know.
oh, I can go through that. We've had that on this podcast many times. So, hey, I think Jerry jumped back in. He must have got disconnected. Hey, that's the first time we could actually talk without Jerry. Yay!
Did he get disconnected?
Yeah. Let me see. I don't know how to merge him. Hold on, Paul. Hold on. Let me try to do this. Hold and accept. Let me try. All right. You there, Jerry? Did you get cut off?
You cut me off, man. You were.
I didn't
sitting there
cut you
talking
off.
Yeah, he works at night, and then my phone went dead.
I didn't cut you off. I didn't even touch my phone. My phone's working perfectly. You know what? It's because we just had an actual chance to speak because Jerry does like to talk, as we know. So we had our moment on the floor.
That's kind of brutal.
Paul got to talk.
Yeah, kind of brutal.
You what?
That was kind of brutal. Kind of brutal.
That's okay. Jerry and I have done that. We always have fun harassing each other. We do it all the time.
You know what the real reason is, though? Brian still hasn't mastered the Apple phones that he loves so much.
I got a mute button right here. I can mute you in a second. Oh, gosh. I don't even want to say what phone Paul has.
I'm okay with saying I have an Android. I'm cheap. I don't care. It's a free phone.
I've got an Android, too.
Yeah. Every time they want to re-up my phone plan, I'm like, oh, I get a free phone. Cool. I'm not paying for a phone. So.
Well, Paul, you got more than one phone, so you're always carrying a couple.
I don't pay for either one of them. I pay for the line. That's it. So.
Well, there you go.
That's how fiscally responsible I am.
If you get it for free, do it.
Right. Oh, it's 2 years old. It's a 2-year-old model. I don't care. Can I talk to somebody on it? Cool. I'm good.
Exactly. I see Paul's car. He doesn't care. He could have any car he wants, but he drives around in an older car. He doesn't care about that stuff. He's just out there to help.
Well, amen.
That's all it is. Unlike Baker, who was our sheriff driving, rumor has he was driving around, having a driver driving around with tinted windows where no one could see him. I mean, as a sheriff of Wake County.
Well, that wasn't a rumor. He was actually doing that.
I know.
Let me just tell you, I hope somebody was driving him because every time I heard him speak, he sounded like he was soft.
Yep.
Well, anyway, I just want to thank everybody for being on this podcast tonight. Guys, I'll be making an announcement eventually soon. We'll talk about that later. But right now it's about Paul tonight. And Paul, I'm just going to say this. You are going to be the next mayor of Raleigh. You are going to definitely be the next mayor of Raleigh. Thank God. Raleigh's finally going to look much better over there when I drive through the streets. So, that being said, I want to thank our law enforcement for everything you guys do out there. I also want to thank our first responders for everything you guys do. I want to thank our military out there. Guys, you're going through a lot right now overseas. We know that, and our hearts and all are with you. And I do want to thank our truck drivers and our farmers as well. Anything else, guys?
Oh, man, I appreciate you being on tonight. Yeah, it's been fun.
All right. Well, God bless you. God bless America. And thanks for listening. We'll be back on very soon. Take care.